extending Brexit, but looking for a no-deal outcome. The Malthouse Compromise was put together by the Housing Minister Kit Malthouse. It gained backing from Brexiteers and Remainers within the Tory party, and that was ahead of the first vote on the withdrawal agreement back in January. And now we're seeing it being dressed up as an amendment put forward by Damien Green, the Tory, where the aim is to achieve a managed no-deal by extending Brexit Day to May. And then, of course, that will be followed by a transition period of 2 years after, as I said earlier, we will leave with no deal. So let's see what the appetite is for that amendment in the House of Commons. We've already had a vote concerning Caroline Spellman's amendment, suggesting that there should be no deal whatsoever. These are non-legally binding votes, by the way. This is just really an indication of the sentiment and what the thoughts are in that House of Commons over the no-deal scenario. And Spellman's amendment, just a few minutes ago, passed, but only by a 4-vote majority, ruling out a no-deal scenario, no matter what the circumstances are. And then later, we'll be having the main vote put forward by the government, suggesting that there is no appetite for no deal. They agree with that, but they do recognise the fact that no deal is still on the table. And as we were just hearing from Stephen Wolf a little earlier, a no-deal outcome is something that now the EU is prepared to accept and is indeed preparing for. So here we go again, another vote in the House of Commons, but this time an amendment. As I say, it's non-binding, it's more symbolic than anything else. The suggestion is that this won't pass through, but who knows in politics, no idea what's going to happen. And then, as I say, a few minutes from then, from this vote on this amendment, we will go to the government's vote concerning the no-deal scenario, but bearing in mind that the fact is, on the 29th of March, we have to leave the UK. If we don't have an agreement by then by law, we have to leave, and that'll be without a deal. We'll get a reaction from Stephen Wolf, MEP. He's live in Strasbourg at the moment. We'll be having a chat to him in a moment to get his reaction on this latest vote in the House of Commons. I think we're just a few minutes away now, or a few seconds, I should say. So this is Malthouse Compromise. Let's await the results.
Order! Order! The ayes to the right, 164. The noes to the left, 374. The ayes to the right, 164. The noes to the left, 374. So the noes have it, the noes have it. Unlock. Order. The question is the main motion as amended. That is to say, as amended by Amendment A. The question is the main motion as amended. As many as I've that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no.
There we have it. The Malthouse Amendment has been rejected by MPs, meaning that Brexit will still take place on the original date of the 29th of March.
Get in.
Let's go back now to Stephen Wolf. Stephen, a lot of guffaws and chuckles there as a result of that. Certainly voted down, but didn't that make sense, actually? That we do need to have now a managed no-deal exit. And that was a perfectly sensible option, wasn't it?
Well, I think if you like me to accept the idea that we have a WTO deal and you have this kind of extension, as my point was very early, is how long could the extension be? Because you have this difficulty over the timing of the 18th of April in preparation for the European elections, the 22nd of May when the European elections are on. And the question is, even if you were going to have a managed scenario for a WTO, you'd have to make an agreement, and this is what Barnier has said, something firm and determined, that you can have an agreement with them, and that is why they would allow an extension. Now, perhaps the European Union would agree to that if they said this was for a managed scenario. Parliament, again, in their churlishness and in their desire to stop Brexit, have voted twice tonight. Once, to tie the hands of the Prime Minister by suggesting you can't have a no deal, although you have a no deal on the 29th, whatever happens, and two, not to allow an extension for no deal. What they are hoping and forcing is tomorrow's vote to make sure that Theresa May can come begging to the European Union for an extension. She will then have to tell the European Union what that extension is for, giving something determined, and the only argument they're going to give her is so that we can have another vote of the people. That is what this is all about, stopping Brexit.
But couldn't the EU really have helped out with those concessions? Geoffrey Cox went there to change just a few legal tweaks over the backstop issue. And all the indications were that she had got those legal changes, and suddenly the atmosphere lifted and we were very close by the looks of things yesterday morning to a withdrawal agreement. Don't you think the EU has been intransigent here, and it's responsible, it's just as much as the British government?
Of course it is.
Well, the EU is incredibly responsible for this, because the deal that they agreed with the European Union was part of their three-pronged strategy. The first prong was to make sure that the rest of the world understood that if they're willing to hit hard Britain, the fifth largest economy, and a so-called friend, they could have negotiations tough with the rest of the world in future arrangements. Two, to send a message to other European Union countries, if we're going to damage Britain, just think how much we would damage you. And thirdly, to work alongside those Remainers who are seeking to try and stop Brexit, to lead us into a deal, the withdrawal agreement, that was effectively not Brexit at all, but was actually a soft Remain, giving lots of options for the European Union still to control our economy, our rules, be governed by the European Courts of Justice, and we paid for it. And they succeeded in doing that, so there is no interest from them, having achieved their three goals, to make sure it's easy for Britain to leave, because ultimately they're working alongside, in my view, and certainly when you look at Tony Blair and Dominic Grieve going to Macron and discussing how to stop Brexit, they are believing that they can actually have Britain remain in the European Union by providing a circumstance where Parliament can just ensure Brexit doesn't work.
If it does go to the people as a second vote, will the country in effect change its mind? Does
No.
the EU really think that maybe another vote will lead us to say we shall remain? Bearing in mind, you've just basically summed up some of the bullying tactics from the EU. Some Remainers might be saying, well, the way they've been behaving with us, we might change our mind and we will support Brexit and we go all through it again.
Well, look, the European Union has been convinced by people like Blair, like those from Anna Soubry and Chuka Urbana, from the whole raft of people that keep going in to see him, that they will win a third referendum on our membership of the European Union. I'm not so convinced that they will. And even if they, and that's why they want to have three particular votes on the ballot paper, one to remain, one for Theresa May's withdrawal agreement, and one for WTO, because they want to split the vote. But you're right, I'm meeting lots of Remainers now who said they would vote to leave because of the way that Parliament has acted, because of the way that the European Union has been intransigent. But whatever happens, Bill, if we went to a third referendum, the damage to our democracy, the fractiousness and disagreements within our communities would raise. We would see the way that the rest of the world is already looking at Britain as being a damaged nation and completely embarrassing. We're losing any credibility in the world, and if we went to a third referendum, the rest of the world would simply say to Britain, look, they've become a chattel of the European Union. They are simply doing as the European Union wants. We no longer need to deal with them at all in the future. Let's ignore them. Just talk to Brussels.
Stephen Wall, thank you very much. Great to hear you live tonight here on RTUK. Thank you for your time.